So in this video, we are going to be looking at ordering and comparing decimals. So ordering is anything that says like put these numbers in order from least to greatest or from greatest to least, and comparing means that we're just looking at two numbers and saying like which one is bigger, which one is smaller. So how can we do that? And decimals do get a little bit tricky. So let's say you got a problem that asked you to order all 6 of these numbers in order from least to greatest. Well, how would you start? Well, that's what the previous video should have helped you. In case any of these were a fraction, you want to first convert that fraction to a decimal so that way we can look at all of the numbers in decimal form. Now that you have all your numbers in the same form, the next thing with decimals you want to do is make sure that you have the same number of digits in each of the numbers. So we see that some of them have 4 digits, and some of them only have 2. Well, the good thing is that with decimals, you can add trailing zeros. So you can add zeros to the end of a decimal without changing its value. So let's make them all have the same number of digits. So this one has 3 numbers after the decimal place. This number has 3 numbers after the decimal place. This number has 3 numbers after the decimal place. This number has 3 numbers after the decimal place. But this number only has 2 numbers after the decimal place. So we can add a trailing 0, and that doesn't change the value of this number. This 3.2 only has 1 number after the decimal place, so we can add 2 trailing zeros, and that still doesn't change the value of this number. Now that we have all of our decimals with the same number of digits after the decimal place, now we just want to look at each number, and we want to look at the digits in order from left to right. Okay, so all of our first numbers or our whole numbers is a 3. So we have a 3 in our ones place for all of these numbers. So that doesn't tell us anything about which one's bigger, which one's smaller. Well, now if we look at our tenths place, here we have a 0, we have a 1, we have a 1, a 0, and a 2. So looking at those, we can definitely say that this number, and this number are going to be the smallest, right? Okay, so now we're looking at just these 3 numbers because we have a 0 and we know that 0 is less than 1 and 0 is less than 2. So now we have all of these 3 numbers with a 0 in the tenths place. So now we want to move on to the next number. So now next number we're looking at, let's look at, here we have a 0, a 1, and a 1. Well, this 0 is less than a 1, so this number, 3.002, would be less than either of these 2 numbers because 0 is less than 1. So our first smallest number would be 3.002. All right. So now looking at these 2 numbers, which one is smaller? Well, we had a 3, a 0, and a 1. A 3, a 0, and a 1. So those are the same so far. So now let's look at our last digit. Well, we have a 3 as our last digit here and a 0 as our last digit here. Well, 0 is less than 3, so that means that this number, 3.010, is less than this number, 3.013. So our next smallest number would be 3.010, and then we would have 3.013. Okay. So now we have figured those out. Well, going back to our remaining 3 numbers, right, we ended up with a 1 in our tenths place and a 1 in our tenths place and a 2 in our tenths place here. So obviously this is going to be our biggest number. But now we need to decide between these 2 numbers that start with 3.1. So let's start at looking at our next number from left to right. Well, in this number we have a 0. And in this number, in the hundredths place, we have a 1. Well, we know that 0 is smaller than 1, so this number is smaller than this number. So our next smallest number would be 3.101, and then it would be 3.111. And then our biggest number is going to be this one that has the one that has the biggest number soonest from left to right, so 3.2. Would be our biggest number. So that is these numbers ordered from least to greatest. I feel like there's something else I wanted to say. Oh, that's the other thing. So if we wanted to write these out, right, we can always use our inequality signs. So whenever you look at an inequality sign, let's write this down, right, you always want to remember that the alligator, I always draw an alligator, right, angry alligator, is eating the bigger number. Okay, so it doesn't matter which way you draw it as long as the alligator is eating the bigger number. Okay, let's make our alligator blue. Okay, so our blue alligator is eating the bigger number. So in this case, between this number and this number, we said that this number was bigger. So our alligator would be eating that bigger number. So if we wanted to write the inequality that compared these two numbers, we would write 3.002 is less than 3.010. Or you could also read this as 3.010 is greater than 3.002. Either way is true. Okay? Just a couple more examples for inequality signs, right? If we wanted to compare, let's say, the number 5 and the number 3, well, our alligator, right, is always going to be eating our bigger number. We know that 5 is greater than 3. Or we can say that 3 is less than 5. Okay, let's say we wanted to compare 2.5 and 3.7. Well, we know that 2 point anything is less than 3 point anything, right? So which one is the bigger number? This one, the one that the alligator is going to be eating, okay? So without the alligator face, we just have our inequality sign, okay? Without the alligator face, we just have our inequality sign. All right? Hope that helps.